Hey everyone, I hope you all had a wonderful Valentine's Day. I am actually recording this the day of Valentine's, but this video will be going up the day after Valentine's. So I guess this could be considered my Valentine's Day gift to you all. Today we'll be discussing the topic of RWBY as a Crunchyroll exclusive. Now for those of you who might be unaware of this at the moment, RWBY Volume 9 will be airing on Crunchyroll exclusively and will not be available elsewhere for a year. This means a couple different things for the RWBY franchise. One, it won't be available on Rooster Teeth's site for quite a while, and two, it won't be available for free for quite a while. Now, a couple topics to tackle before we get into the meat of the video. First and foremost, this doesn't mean that all RWBY will only be on Crunchyroll from now on, just the newer stuff. Everything that has been previously released, all of the previous volumes, Ice Queendom, the Grimm Campaign, the World of Remnant, will all be available on Rooster Teeth's site still. It will also be available on Crunchyroll as well, so you'll have access to it in both places. Now, RWBY Volume 9 won't be available on RT's site until a year after the initial release. However, we don't know if that will be the case for all future RWBY releases. Maybe the schedule will change with future volumes, maybe it won't. There's really only one way to find out for that. Second thing, this is going to be another unscripted video. However, it will be a little more formulated than my previous video about the RWBY DC crossover movie. I have a series of bullet points I've set up to tackle kind of each topic about this, kind of in turn. So hopefully that will help things be a little more structured for this, as I kind of give my personal opinion on this, what it could mean for RWBY, both as a show and as, its community. Because this is a big change for the show, and it's also a big change for us, so I feel like it does need to be talked about. First bullet point, RWBY has been available on Crunchyroll for a while, and this is most likely a decision made for money's sake. Rooster Teeth is, at the end of the day, a company and likely doesn't get a lot of support from Warner Bros., at least if what was said in the Q&A can be believed. This isn't surprising, as WB has been cutting back on its animations for a while now, and RWBY is RT's flagship show. Second bullet point, RWBY will not be free to watch for an entire year. Historically, RWBY has always been available for free to the general public. You would have to wait a bit longer for each episode and would have to deal with ads, but you could still watch for free even after RWBY stopped airing on YouTube. How does this affect the RWBY community? I would guess that a good chunk of the RWBY community are also fans of anime in general, so I'd guess that a lot of people in the community already have Crunchyroll subscriptions and are largely unaffected by this. However, I'm just as sure that there are many that don't and only have RT First subscriptions, and then of course there are those who have neither and may not be able to get either. Does this make pirating RWBY okay now that it's no longer free? Probably not. This is a complete guess on my part. I don't have any kind of insider information on RT's inner workings, but I suspect they need this partnership. They had to cut down hard on their animation studio, and they may need this to recoup those losses. RT has taken more than a couple blows over the years, and while some have been the result of actions that can't be blamed on the company as a whole or just outside of their power to control, others certainly can be. Rooster Teeth is a company, as much as they may try to cultivate an image of being everyone's laid-back friend. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to defend Rooster Teeth's scummier business practices. They have, on more than one occasion, either not lived up to promises they made or just outright lied to people, including, us, their community, which is a big no-no. So, yeah, they've honestly deserved some of the blows they've taken. However, RT going under would not be a good thing for RWBY's future. It would mean it either gets shelved indefinitely or gets handed over to a new team to continue producing it. And if you need an example of why that would probably be a bad thing, look at Genlock Season 2. Say what you will about Rooster Teeth as a company, and there's plenty to say, RWBY at least seems to give a fuck about RWBY. There is no guarantee that would still be the case with a new studio and team. Personally, outside of RWBY, I really don't care about Rooster Teeth anymore. I used to be a big fan of theirs when I was younger, but over the years, as things have changed, as things have come to light, that has really fallen away, and I don't really like them all that much anymore. But I do still really like RWBY. I want good things for the show, and I ultimately don't think that Rooster Teeth going under would be a good thing for RWBY. So, to be entirely frank with you, After RWBY's over, RT can burn for all I personally care, but so long as RWBY is ongoing, I would rather that the people who initially made it, and thus have a greater attachment to it, continue to be the ones to produce it, because at the very least, they have a good reason to care about it. All that being said, some people simply can't afford to pay to watch RWBY. In those cases, I don't blame anyone who would choose to find alternative methods to watch the show. RWBY has been free to watch in some capacity or another pretty much ever since the first episode, and to suddenly have that taken away in the new volume, one that people have been waiting literal years for, sucks. I initially started watching RWBY back in high school, I think around volume 2, and I didn't have a first subscription, so I could only get the new episodes by waiting that week and then watching them. Had that not been the case back then, I probably wouldn't have gotten into RWBY, because how could I have? So that change, I mean, for a lot of folks, yeah, that's going to be a big deal, especially, perhaps younger people who just don't have a job, can't get one with school and such, or just folks who have better things to spend their money on rather than a monthly subscription to a streaming service. Not everyone can afford to do that. People have needs they need to see to first. But that doesn't mean they're not allowed to enjoy good content and watch the things that make them happy. In a perfect world, anyone would be able to watch whatever they want without having to pay for it. Unfortunately, we don't live in that world, and, a lot of streaming services are paid for these days, and they kind of have to be to, cover costs, etc., etc. I'm not getting into that here, but you know what I'm saying. I can't blame folks for wanting to watch things despite the fact that they cannot legally afford to watch the thing. So, too long didn't watch. If you don't have a Crunchyroll subscription, I would encourage you to get one if you don't want to wait a year, and really, who could blame you, so long as you can afford to. It's what I'll be doing. I'll just literally be swapping out my RT First subscription for it, so not much has changed for me. If you can't afford it, then I don't blame you for doing what you have to do. You still deserve to watch RWBY, you still deserve to have fun and like the show. And if you can't afford it but don't want to, well, I doubt I or Rooster Teeth would be able to change your mind anyway. Content being pirated is just a reality of producing entertainment, and while I can't blame a company or creators for trying to curb it as much as possible, one needs to understand that it's going to happen no matter what. So, with all of this being said, my personal opinion on the matter is that no, I don't think RWBY being a Crunchyroll exclusive is a good deal per se for us, because, means a lot of folks may not be able to get access to it anymore. But at the same time, I feel like this was also a situation where maybe RT didn't really have a choice in the matter. They felt like they had to do this, or, maybe Warner Bros. Kind of pressured them to do this. I don't know. That's complete speculation on my part. But my point is, if you like RWBY and you enjoy the show and you want to see more of it, I do encourage you to monetarily support it via a subscription to Crunchyroll, because I want good things for the show. Again, like I said earlier, I don't care about Rooster Teeth. I don't really care what happens to the company itself, but I do care what happens to RWBY, and I do really fear that RT going under means RWBY goes under or gets handed off to folks who won't care about it as much as RWBY does, and will do things like Genlock Season 2 to it. I'd rather not see that happen. That was bad. Yeah, so. Yep, ultimately my opinion is support it if you can. If you can't, I understand. If you don't want to, well, that's your decision, and I doubt I was able to change your mind, so hey, no big deal. But either way, regardless of how you watch RWBY, I hope that everyone is excited for Volume 9. I hope that we can all together enjoy it and just be happy that we're getting more RWBY and, getting a very interesting looking volume. Don't have much more to say than that, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it here. Next video will probably be the breakdown of Chapter 1 of Volume 9. That feels good to say, I'm gonna be honest. But I do have a couple of other video ideas I want to get to at some point. One of them was actually inspired by one of Phoenix Knight's videos that he put out just yesterday and today. So if you've watched those, then you probably know what videos I'm talking about. But yeah, I have some ideas. But for now, hey, RWBY Volume 9 is almost out, guys. Let's get excited. With that, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and never forget to keep moving forward.